If you've been considering a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, or any other qualified retirement plan, I would like to take some time to talk to you about the truth of these plans. Above all else, I would like to congratulate you for your foresight in planning for your future. That's really important to us at Grillo Enterprises. Making regular contributions to provide for yourself in retirement is an important and essential step for every working person these days. However, you must ask yourself if you have been exposed to all the facts about these plans and all of the possible alternatives. Do you even know why it's called a qualified plan? And where do those strange sounding names come from? 401k and 403b, and other such confusing terms. The titles are actually sections and paragraphs from the IRS code of the federal government that describe programs set up by the IRS, the tax collectors, for working people to try to save money for retirement. A qualified plan means that this year, when you make a contribution to your plan, you qualify for a special tax saving. The catch is that you're only delaying the inevitable. Later, when you begin to withdraw money from your retirement account, the IRS will be there to collect what you didn't pay this year. Your money will grow tax deferred in your account, so it can take advantage of compounding interest. But you will also be required to pay taxes on the interest accrued. A tax deferral simply means that you delay your obligation, not that it is eliminated. Depending on your tax bracket at the time, and depending on the tax rates at the time, the best possible case is that you will lose about 1/3 of your savings to taxes. That means if you make a withdrawal from your account of $100,000, you will owe the IRS about $33,000, leaving you with working income of only $67,000. Of course, your state government will be waiting for their share as well. Another major challenge to these plans is that they almost universally invest in mutual funds, which means that they're directly invested in the stock market and are subject to the volatility that the market has displayed over the past 10, 20, 30 plus years. Many of us still remember years like 2001 and 2008, when we lost significant amounts of our savings portfolios. In these cases, we not only lost any gains that we had made, but because the principal, which is your initial investment or contribution, is not guaranteed, we lost much of that as well. In those years, many who were poised to retire were forced to keep on working in order to keep their homes and to put food on the table. Many will never be able to retire. In his recent book, Unshakable, Tony Robbins devotes a chapter to the 4 core principles that are essential to an investment philosophy. The first is, don't lose. All of the investment geniuses he interviewed, such as Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, and others, had this as the first principle of their investment strategy. Unfortunately, nearly all of the qualified savings programs offered to working Americans ignores this strategy. You can lose, and you can lose everything, because there are no guarantees. In 2001 and 2008, everyone with these plans watched them virtually disappear overnight. Even with the bull markets and record highs we've experienced in the last several years, none of those plans have fully recovered. Robbins describes the second core principle as asymmetric risk-reward. By this, he means that you should be looking for low risk and high reward in any investment. You'll hear from financial advisors that the only way to make a lot of money is to take large risks. This sometimes, but only rarely, works for a few investors. But for most people, taking large risks usually ends up resulting in total loss of investment assets. The investment options most commonly offered by qualified plans involve high risks that most investors are not prepared to take, especially when you're investing money that you can't afford to lose. The third core principle is tax advantage. We've already spoken about the tax obligations that come along with qualified plans. Just when you're in need of income because you're no longer working, the IRS will be the first in line to collect what you owe them, nearly half of what you save, before you can even pay yourself. Now, we're not against paying taxes, at least not a fair share, or what's permitted by law. Tony Robbins quotes a famous federal appeals court judge, Billings' learned hand, who in 1934 said, "Anyone may arrange his affairs so that his taxes shall be as low as possible." He goes on to say, "Nobody owes any public duty to pay more than the law demands." Finally, the fourth principle is diversification. Because most qualified plans offer only a few mutual funds and very little real guidance or advice, there's a failure here as well. I want to talk to you about a long-term investment plan that meets or beats all of the four core principles outlined by Tony Robbins, and even adds a few that he mentions elsewhere in the same book. It just makes sense that when you're thinking about opening a long-term savings plan, that you will be looking to keep as much of your savings as possible. So, you want a good return, low fees, safety, a positive tax treatment, and flexibility when it comes to the accounts where your money is placed, so your money is diversified. Now, the comparison I'm going to make for you is kind of like this. Back in the 1950s and 60s, consumers would often have installed telephones in their house that were usually black, had a rotary dial, and either sat on a table or were mounted on the wall. Most homes had only one phone. In order to save money, these phones were often party lines. If you picked up the receiver and you heard a voice, it was someone else on the line who shared it with you, and you had to wait until they finished before you could place your call. Phones at the time were quite expensive, and long-distance calling was very expensive. Qualified plans are kind of like these old phones. You can make a call, but it's limited and costly. The plan that I want to talk to you about is a lot like modern smartphones. You can still make a phone call, but you can do so much more with them. They're mobile, communication is flexible, and there's hardly a comparison to the old phones of that era. Someone from back in those days wouldn't have a clue that these modern devices even serve a similar purpose. The plans we want to talk to you about are that far advanced over qualified plans. You may never have heard of these plans, but they really do exist. They're called Indexed Universal Life Contracts, or IULs for short. Your mutual fund advisor or other retirement advisor will not mention these to you and may have no knowledge of them because they're insurance products. Your advisor is securities licensed and has no knowledge of nor the ability to provide insurance products. Because an IUL is an insurance product, it can offer the best of all worlds and fulfill all of the core principles used by the most successful investors. You might say you've never heard of this, and not to be insulting, but I guess that there are a lot of investment programs and investment strategies that you've never heard of. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist, or that they're not good for you. Would you be surprised to learn that banks all across America have caught on to this investment strategy, and that currently there's over $150 billion in this type of insurance owned by banks, the largest being the Bank of America. They use this safe, powerful investment program under supervision to pay for their employee benefits programs. With a relatively small initial investment, they're generating billions of dollars of tax-free income. How about corporate America? Did you know that 38 of the Forbes 50 companies have these investment plans in place for their top executives and key personnel? That's 76% of the 50 largest companies in the US. Maybe it's time to learn a little more. As we mentioned before, these investment plans are life insurance products. So, as soon as you open your account, you have an immediate estate and your net worth increases to the value of the policy. Then you begin to place a specified amount of investment money in your account, monthly or annually, whatever's best for you. These accounts are called indexed accounts because the interest paid is a reflection of the performance of certain stock indexes such as the S&P 500, the Euro 50, and the Hang Seng Asian markets. You don't invest directly into the market, but your funds are credited according to their performance. That's why your insurance investment company can give you the guarantee that you will never lose your principal or your gains, that's your profits. If the market drops, your investment doesn't. It remains steady at its current level. If the market goes up, your account reflects the gains. In his book that we've already mentioned, Tony Robbins talks about index fund investing. He quotes the experience of 4 of the most successful investors in history: Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Jack Bogle, and David Swensen, all of whom told him that indexing is one of the smartest strategies for regular people like you and me. On page 16 of the book, he says, one reason why is that index funds are designed to match the return of the market. Unless you're a superstar like Warren or Ray, you're better off capturing that market return instead of trying and almost certainly failing to beat the market. We've talked a lot about market volatility. Let me give you a practical comparison between an IUL account and a 401k, IRA, or brokerage account over the 10-year period from 2000 to 2009. Now, I'm going to hit you with a lot of numbers, so please stick with me. Let's say you had $1 million in your account. In 2000, the market dropped 12.2%, in 2001, 13.4%, and in 2002, 24.1%. Your non-guaranteed account would have dropped to $878,000, then to $760,000, and finally to $577,000, while your guaranteed IUL account would have remained steady at $1 million. In 2003, the market gained 26.3%, so your brokerage or qualified account would have risen back to about $728,000. Your IUL has a cap on your gain at between 13 and 15%, so it would have gone up to about $1.13 million. Now in years 2004, 5, 6, and 7, the market gained 7.2%, 1.2%, 12.8%, and 1.2% respectively. Those gains would have brought your qualified account back up to about $900,000, while your IUL would have grown to about $1,400,000. Are you still with me? Let's go on. In 2008, the bottom fell out of the market and it lost 37%. Your non-guaranteed account dropped to $565,000, while your IUL, with its guaranteed floor, remained at $1.4 million. That's a difference of $835,000. In order for your qualified account to catch up to the guaranteed account, you would need 10 consecutive years of a positive 15% return on the stock market, which has never occurred. Do you see why guarantees are so important? Even better than that, the money in your IUL account grows tax-free, is distributed tax-free, and can be available whenever you need it. It's good for both long-term and midterm goals, such as your children's college education, down payment on a house, or a business startup. When structured properly, which we always do, it can provide a steady stream of income tax-free for the rest of your life. Let me talk to you a little bit about the issue of taxes. I mentioned earlier that the qualified plans give you a special tax discount in the year when you make a contribution, but charge you later when you're ready to take your money out. These IUL accounts don't give you that qualification. Your money goes in after taxes. Let me give you one last analogy. Imagine you're a farmer and you want to plant a crop of corn. Would you want to pay taxes on the seed you buy or on the crop when it's harvested? Say you bought $6,000 worth of seed and had to pay $2,000 in taxes on the seed. You planted your seed and saw a bumper crop of corn worth $500,000. The tax bill on the harvest would be a whopping $167,000. What seemed like a good deal at the beginning, saving $2,000, has turned into a nightmare in the end. As your money grows and multiplies, just like the corn, so does your tax bill in a qualified account. In your IUL, there would be no tax bill in the end. So now, I have to ask you, after we've presented you with the facts and figures, the comparisons, and the different analogies, would you rather be there with your old, very expensive and outdated rotary dial phone, your qualified plan, waiting for someone else to get off the line? It might have been a good idea for its time, but its time has passed. Wouldn't you rather be texting and surfing the net, sharing your good fortune with your latest smartphone, enjoying the benefits of the latest technology and the latest, best opportunity? That's what an IUL can offer you. Certainly, there are other details that apply only to you and your situation that we will want to discuss with you face to face. Now is the time to make an appointment with one of our agents at Grillo Enterprises so we can get you started on the road to building your personal wealth.